All right, I think we're officially live. It takes about 20 seconds or so for everything to kind of buffer up and get us going. Looks like we've got someone join us. Hey, Tony, how are you doing, man? I have not seen you in a while or heard from you in a while. Thought we might talk about how turn 2 has progressed for the Soviets in the next war. And so I'm probably going to get started. I'm not going to wait around for a bunch of people to join because I don't have a lot of time. But I did want to share some reactions and insights, maybe more reactions than insights, but let's see what happens. So the big red arrows represent where the army headquarters are situated, generally speaking, and it's a means for us to kind of keep track of me trying to cluster forces together. And I think the first thing that I've realized is that I may have spread my attack a little too thin in the center towards Fulda Gap. Over here I had an army group which really kind of got bogged down in this area right here. And so it wasn't until sort of halfway through the turn where I could have brought this army group here up this way, and probably should have done that, or initially brought them up the highway and into the Fulda Gap. I think that would have been a smart thing, and then also attacking with the East Germans in this direction as well, or at least one army group from the East Germans. So I've actually got two army HQs here. I've got 1st Guard Tank and 8th Guard Army. So they have a much smaller stack of dudes. They've got just three divisions. These guys have 4 divisions, I believe. So kind of almost not enough there. The good news is that as I've played more actions or iterations of the various forces, I am coming to appreciate a little better the kind of the cadence or the mechanics of pushing back, knocking back units out of their defensive position, and then racking up damage on them. Now, I'm not I'm not a battle of annihilation guy. I like to let supply do the killing for me. So if it was possible, and in this game you can't kill things, but you can make them much, much weaker, is my point, or easier to kill. And what I would have liked to have done here was broken through and attacked into, in fact, here's another division here for this formation. That's the edge of Frankfurt right here. So what I would have liked to have done here was bust through with the first formation or the second formation, and then push this chap aside and being able to dig deep into Frankfurt, knock out some air, attack this headquarters here, and generally cause lots of mayhem and destruction for these forces. That almost happened, but it took 5 divisions of chaps and some follow-up guys to make it happen. And part of that is the interplay between air and welcome to the folks that are just joining. The interplay between the air and the ground game, obviously enough, is pretty fascinating, because the cadence here is really driven by how desperately does NATO want to keep this hex. If that hex is vital, then they'll take the D result, which will be a 2-step loss, and they'll stay in place if things don't go their way. Or they may put a lot of air into this hex, and if it all gets through, or most of it gets through, then it's going to make this attack difficult, and it may end up being a 1-to-1 attack or a 2-to-1 attack instead of a 4 or 5-to-1 attack. And that then slows these guys down, means they have to then attack again to try and come back in. And if the result didn't work out for them in the first place, they may either incur fatigue or a step loss here. I think one of these guys took a step loss somewhere. This guy here, I think he's got he's got a step loss there. So, here we go. The cadence here then becomes interesting because I can keep attacking with the same guy and accrue fatigue and potentially more step losses, or I can bring another guy in. He then gives me, let him attack, and that gives me a column shift on the attack. Unfortunately, the Soviets don't have a lot of air in this sector, so there's not a lot they can bring to the table, and there's lots of choppers right here that are impacting the battle space. And this brigade hung in there as long as it could with as much air as it could. We deemed it to be the critical point for the series of engagements that went down, and due to this kind of movement headed this way to try and sync up with forces over to the left here, we could have had a couple more fresh divisions try and pound in here or put pressure in from another direction, but unfortunately we haven't. I did find out that this defensive setup that I have is not optimal, and we really needed to perhaps have one more unit here in front of Frankfurt. Frankfurt actually was attacked, and this HQ was attacked, but it received a massive amount of artillery and air support and fended off this attack and forced a contact, which is probably the best result we could have had, because it drives this guy to a halt. And based on all the movement points spent here, I'm not sure that we can really move these guys very much further without putting everybody into a fairly difficult situation here. So, I guess there might be some value trying to, crunch through. There'll be 4, 8, 12, another 12 movement points to there, then 13 movement points, then there's a zone of control here. There is underneath here there is 13, so that'd be 14, that'd be 18, and then an attack 22. That'd be 22 movement points over and above what they'd already spent here, which is pretty significant. So you start to see, with a maximum movement allowance of 50 that you could conceivably spend, the standard movement allowance is 20, and you can go into fatigue mode to spend more. That would put us right on the edge, and I don't know if that's worth it there or not, because the Americans still have air that they can bring to bear, and I don't know that we can knock those guys out of that hex this turn. Something to think about there. I'm hedging my bets on continuing to move these guys. Oh, JT, is that a little bit better there? Sorry about the focus stuff. I can zoom in a little bit, and that's probably not going to help actually if we zoom in. All right. All right. So I'm just checking the comments here to make sure I'm not missing anything too bad. So that's kind of what went on in this area. I think we got very, very lucky here. We really, earlier on in the turn, this was my second turn. The beginning of the second turn was done down here and around Berlin, and it was ugly. I started driving in on, once again here I was trying to go around, so I wanted to knock this guy out and make him retreat. Could not make it happen. Just some odd and horrible die rolls there. I wanted to cut supply off for these guys from this direction, and then work on crossing here and coming this way, trying to put some pressure on the NATO forces down in the Italian area. Okay, so now the interesting stuff as we warmed up around here, got things moving. Let me see if I can find a spot to put the camera, because it's very busy in the backfield here. Now here, actually it's over here. We'll look at these two spaces together. Can I zoom out? Yeah. So over the northern German plains, kind of headed towards Kiel and the Denmark border, I snuck a unit into Denmark in supply, took the role. Denmark decided they wanted to stay and fight. They did not want to surrender. These fuel markers are replacing fatigue markers. I seem to have run out of fatigue markers. There are not enough fatigue and damage markers in the game, and it's I gotta tell you, it's really freaking annoying. They're all the same color. They're all white with black font, and you've got to look pretty closely at each one just to work out what's what. So we're using fuel because it starts with an F for fatigue markers, and that's kind of just is what it is. So over here we had the Germans push in, and we had the Soviets push in. Soviets went first, attacked the force here, broke through, then attacked again as it retreated, and then forced it back across the river. And then we went around, kicked ourselves all the way up to fatigue level 2, but we are across the Elbe. Now, these guys are going to be out of supply, which could be dangerous. But what I'm hoping to do is force these fellas here to pull back. They can try and destroy this bridge here or damage it one more time. They've destroyed these guys. So, Hamburg will fall hopefully without too much of a fight. I was hoping to get more folks across the river, but I just could not get the kills on this guy. He kept retreating versus standing and fighting, and it all went sideways for him. Similarly, towards Hanover, where are we? Here. So towards Hanover, we had the same sort of challenges. We did manage to get the breakthrough streak. Oh, you just can't see the guy, can you? Here he is all the way over there. So we did this break. We crossed over here, spent a bunch of points, attacked, and then drove across I went across the river here, because this breakthrough makes this hex have no zone of control, and this hex have no zone of control. So we got to here, attacked this headquarters, at somewhat horrible odds, because we were fatigue level 2. Once again, choppers intervened, and air intervened. I think we did 2 attacks on that guy, and it did not, and I got a contact in the end, and that kind of killed the momentum there. But we have set it up such that it will now cause some concerns for the NATO forces, and they're going to have to think about what they're going to do. Where are they pulling back to? What are they doing? How are they going to do it? Type of thing. So that was all pretty interesting stuff. That is the bulk of the turn. I do have to check on my Marines and my paratroopers. I was going to do something with them this turn, but I think, if I recall correctly, I had elected not to do anything with them because I wanted to have something. I forget what it was now. I think I had one more division of air that was going to be made available, and I wanted to have all of it available. That's right. I couldn't use the paratroopers because I didn't have air superiority, so that was the first thing. So that kind of stymied that. I have got the Marines all set up over here, ready to land, ready to do their thing, and we just have not had the gumption to sort of go in there by ourselves without some support from the air as well. Although I do think that Denmark will fall pretty quickly once we land. So we'll see what happens there. Damage was pretty heavy this turn. Here's the dead pile for the Allies, for the NATO. You can see there's 4 German brigades, or 3 German brigades and 1 US brigade, and then a couple of divisional headquarters. Lots of aircraft took damage. I'm using a slightly modified damage marking system than what's recommended, just because there are not enough damage markers. See that each stack that has a damage marker on top of it, each one of those aircraft is damaged. So in a perfect world, I would have a damage marker for each one, But you can also have two damage markers, which means that it goes on the bottom or on top or vice versa, whatever it is. And there's just not enough to do that, and it makes it a little bit difficult to keep track of stuff. So where no one in this game, I'm trying to avoid having anyone take two damages, even if that means taking a step loss, just because I don't have another way to keep track of it. So that's a little bit annoying, but that is what it is. All right, let's see what else is going on. I think if I could find my sequence of play, I would probably tell you we're very close to the end of the Soviet turn in the second turn. We've had, if you look at the overall progress, let's try and zoom out a little bit. If we kind of do the pointy thing, so we've got the Czech border near where that green counter is, and then it winds around here. Here's East Germany. So we've made a push in towards, what is this, Hamburg here? No, Nuremberg, sorry. Nuremberg is there, Munich is down there. We've got movement down there. I do know where I have not moved. Actually, I haven't done the Austrian forces down there, so I do need to do that. We've made a run at Frankfurt here. Arguably not terribly successful. There's one division that's probably not going to be attacked, but it will be surrounded. And I'll be able to reinforce this turn unless I decide to eat the extra fatigue, and it'd be another 20 plus movement points to try and knock that hex out. Okay, and then here's the thing is that it may be worth it if the US does not have a lot of air support left. And here's the ground support situation. You can see that's the stack of units that's available. Come on, focus. So there's still a couple of good defensive units available that could provide ground support benefit. And I'm not sure that we would be able to attack any other brigades with any sort of decent strength. Good little breakthrough here. Once again, it's kind of piecemeal. This is somewhat more in force, but two divisions versus one is not necessarily a glowing recommendation for my martial prowess. That's pretty much the status at the moment. I'm probably not going to play much of this live just because it can get a little involved, and there's a lot of deadly quiet pauses as I numbskull my way through stuff. A couple of interesting little things that are happening to the Soviets right now. There is a low ammo, I think that's a Belgian guy or Dutch, I don't know, dude here. He is blocking supply to this hex, which means this road cannot be used as a supply route. They're going to have to go around. It's not a big deal, but they have to go around. I did manage to avoid a big faux pas by placing these East Germans here to protect Fulda and this supply route. The Americans were eagerly watching what I was doing as I bifurcated my brain and pretended that I didn't notice that. So that's what's going on. I hope that gives you a little insight into the game. We'll keep playing, and as we get into it, if I get some nice clean combats that look like they're going to run fairly well, I'll jump online and show you live action combats and whatnot as we jump through the hoops for the NATO side. And ideally, I'll try and get the NATO turn done, and we'll get it all set up and squared away to start game turn 3, which unfortunately won't be for 12 or 14 days. Probably not until the week of Thanksgiving will I get back to this after today. All right. Talk to all of you very soon. Hope you're all well. Enjoy the next week or so, and I will talk to you soon. Cheers. Man, someone just joined as we ended up. Bad timing, dude.